I've always been accused of wasting potential. Lazy, unmotivated, too smart for his own good, my mother used to say, which is just a polite way of saying he could be great if he ever stood up. I worked from home, not because I loved freedom, but because it allowed me to exist in the smallest possible radius. Bed, desk, kitchen, bathroom, repeat. My apartment sat on the 19th floor of a concrete skyscraper, one of dozens stacked together like forgotten game assets copy-pasted by a lazy level designer. I made money remotely, fixing problems other people didn't understand. Code bugs, logic holes, system failures. I solved them fast so I could get back to what actually mattered. Games, online games, survival games, city builders, strategy sims, the kind where everything looks easy until resources run out. I told myself they were just entertainment. I didn't realize they were training. That morning started like any other. Coffee, keyboard clicks, a match loading screen. Then I noticed the light. It was wrong. Snow was falling outside. Nothing special at first, but the sky had turned this flat, muted white, like someone had turned the contrast down on reality. I barely glanced at it. I queued for another match. That was my first mistake. At 11:47 a.m., the first siren went off. I muted my headset, annoyed more than worried. Sirens were background noise in the city. Fires, ambulances, drills. I leaned over and pulled my curtain aside. Snow, but not the gentle kind. Not the cinematic flakes drifting down between skyscrapers. This snow fell straight down, dense and aggressive, erasing distance. The building across from mine was already fading, like a rendered distance issue in a bad engine. I checked the weather app. Light snowfall. Liar. Within 30 minutes, the streets disappeared. Cars became white lumps frozen mid-escape. Pedestrians vanished completely, like NPCs despawned by a bug. My phone buzzed. Emergency alert. Stay indoors. Avoid windows. That's when I felt it. That subtle pressure behind the eyes. The same one I get right before a game goes very, very wrong. I paused my match. Outside, the snow wasn't falling anymore. It was pouring. By 1 p.m., we lost sight of the ground. By 1:30, we lost sight of the neighboring buildings. By 2 p.m., every window in the apartment showed the same thing. White. Not fog, not clouds, just white, thick, endless, pressed against the glass like the world had been deleted beyond this point. That's when the panic started. You could hear it through the walls first, doors slamming, footsteps pounding, someone screaming in the stairwell. The building's intercom crackled to life, then died mid-sentence. I tried calling someone. No signal. Wi-Fi stuttered, then vanished. Power flickered once, and my gamer brain, traitorous, annoying, brilliant, didn't scream. It calculated. This is a survival scenario, it whispered. Limited resources, unknown enemy, time pressure. I opened my inventory. Well, my cabinets. Food for maybe 5 days, water for 3, heat uncertain, elevators already dead, snow load on the roof, unknown. The building wasn't designed for this. Neither were the people in it. Another scream echoed from below. I finally stood up. The stairwell was louder than the screaming. That sounds wrong, but it wasn't voices that terrified me. It was the echo. Every footstep bounced back warped and hollow, like the building itself was emptying out. People were running down. Bad instinct. I leaned over the railing and shouted, "Stop going down." Nobody listened. 3 floors below, the stairwell door burst open. Snow poured in, not drifted, not seeped, poured, like the stairwell was connected directly to the sky. The temperature dropped instantly. The snow didn't pile. It pressed, filling space aggressively, forcing itself upward like a living thing. Someone slipped. Someone else fell on top of them. The sound that followed wasn't a scream. It was a thud, followed by silence. I slammed the stairwell door shut from my floor and dragged a vending machine across it with another guy whose name I didn't catch. "Why is it coming up?" he asked, breathless. I didn't answer. I already knew the answer. Verticality exploit. In games, environments follow rules. Gravity, accumulation, load limits. This snow didn't. It wasn't behaving like weather. It was behaving like a system error. Infinite generation, no decay, no melt. I started knocking on doors. People answered with fear in their eyes, wrapped in blankets, clutching phones that didn't work anymore. I spoke fast, clear, calm. "We seal the floor," I said. "No stairwell traffic, no elevators, no windows. If you open anything, it fills. Understand?" Some argued. One guy laughed. 10 minutes later, he broke his window for air. We heard the glass shatter. Then nothing. Not a scream, not movement, just the sound of snow hitting snow. That's when the building chat group finally exploded to life. Offline mesh messaging, barely working. Floor 12, window gone, person missing. Floor 8, snow coming through vents. Florin, can anyone see outside? I typed one message and pinned it. This is a survival event. Follow instructions or you die. I didn't expect anyone to listen. They did. I wasn't strong. I wasn't brave, but I understood systems. I organized floors like guilds, assigned roles, inventory lists, shared heat zones. People laughed when I suggested stacking mattresses against doors. They stopped laughing when the snow began pushing under door frames. We blocked vents, redirected heat, used trash bags and duct tape like crafting materials. One woman cried when I told her to shut off her gas line, said she needed warmth. I told her the truth. If this thing reaches ignition sources, we're dead. The building creaked, not like settling, like pressure. Outside, the white didn't move. It waited. At exactly 6:42 p.m., someone on the 40th floor sent a message. We can't see the sky anymore. That didn't make sense. They were above most storms. Snow should thin with altitude. Instead, it was worse. The white had swallowed the city vertically. A man claiming to be a pilot sent voice notes. His plane diverted earlier, instruments failing, visual whiteout at cruising altitude. That's when the final emergency alert came through. Global event. Shelter immediately. Do not attempt evacuation. Then nothing. No more alerts. No more outside voices. Just us. And the snow. At midnight, the building stopped shaking. People thought that meant safety. I knew better. In every survival game, when the environment goes quiet, that's when something changes. I pressed my ear to the window. The snow wasn't falling anymore. It was moving, not downward, sideways, flowing, like a current, like it was searching. And somewhere deep inside that white mass, something thumped. Once, twice, 3 times. Not random, measured, intentional. I backed away from the glass. For the first time since the storm began, I wasn't thinking like a gamer. I was thinking like prey. Silence is never truly silent. At 2:13 a.m., I realized the snow had a sound. Not wind, not impact. A low, constant hiss, like static pressed directly against the building. When I muted everything inside my apartment and held my breath, I could hear it clearly. White noise, the kind that eats detail, the kind that erases edges. People started reporting the same thing in the group chat. Does anyone hear that? It's like the building is underwater. My kids can't sleep. It's too loud. That's when I noticed the pattern. The sound was louder on outer apartments, quieter toward the core. The snow wasn't just surrounding us. It was pressurizing us. In games, that means one thing, a shrinking safe zone. There was a sky bridge connecting our building to the next tower, 4 stories above us, glass-walled, usually a boring architectural flex. Someone suggested using it. A group from floor 21 sent video. The bridge was still there, clear, empty. They asked me if it was safe. I paused before replying. In every survival scenario, the environment tempts you with shortcuts. I typed, "Wait, test first." They didn't. The camera shook as the door opened. Snow didn't rush in. It didn't need to. The moment the door cracked, the bridge vanished. Not collapsed, not shattered, erased. White flooded the frame, and the video cut off mid-scream. After that, nobody suggested leaving the building again. Hunger changes people faster than fear. By day 2, arguments broke out over canned food and bottled water. Someone tried to hoard batteries. Another tried to steal a heater. I shut it down hard. No trading without logging, I said. No moving supplies alone. We do this like a raid group, or we don't do it at all. They listened. Not because I was charismatic, because my plans kept working. We centralized warmth, shared heat zones, converted dead apartments into storage, melted snow using sealed systems to avoid pressure imbalance. That last one saved us, because the snow wasn't just cold anymore. It was heavy, unnaturally heavy. Structural engineers in the chat started panicking about load limits. Someone on the top floors said the ceiling was bowing inward. Snow doesn't do that, unless it's pushing back. At 4:56 p.m. on day 2, the first impact came from above. Not snow, something solid. The roof groaned. The entire building flinched like a hitbox registering damage. Then again, and again, each strike spaced perfectly, 10 seconds apart. I knew that timing. Cooldowns. Something was testing the structure. People screamed. Someone prayed. Someone laughed hysterically. I opened a private channel with the engineers. If the roof fails, I asked, what happens? They didn't answer immediately. Then one of them typed, "We fill from the top down, fast. A skyscraper becomes a funnel." In games, this is when you either quit or find an exploit. I remembered a mechanic from an old survival game I used to grind obsessively. Pressure equalization. If you can't stop the environment, you trick it. I ordered everyone to open specific internal doors simultaneously, controlled airflow, managed collapse paths, sacrificial zones. We let the snow enter, just enough. The building shuddered, then stabilized. The impact stopped. The thing above us lost interest. That's when I understood the real horror. The snow wasn't random, it was reactive. And now it knew we were smart. At 11:02 p.m., a new message appeared in the chat from floor 3, a floor that had gone silent yesterday. "It's learning," no one responded. Then another message. "It doesn't like empty spaces." Then a photo. The stairwell, filled but not blocked. The snow had formed arches, structural. I felt my stomach drop. This wasn't weather, this was occupation. The voice came through the vents. Not words at first, just a distortion in the white noise, like someone dragging a finger across a broken speaker. It happened whenever someone moved too fast, talked too loud, slammed a door. The snow responded. At 3:18 a.m., someone ran. Floor 27, panic attack, ignored protocol. We heard it before we saw it on the cameras, a deep rushing sound, like an avalanche compressed into a hallway. The snow surged through vents, cracks, seams we didn't even know existed. It didn't flood the entire floor, just his apartment. The camera feed froze on a single frame. The room filled perfectly, furniture suspended midair, like the snow had posed him. After that, nobody ran again. And then the vents whispered, not English, not any language, patterns, rhythm, call and response. I muted the feed and sat back in my chair, heart racing, palms sweaty. This was the first time since the storm began that I felt truly outmatched. In games, when the environment starts communicating, you're not in a sandbox anymore. You're in a boss arena. I hadn't slept in almost 40 hours. My body hated me for it, legs stiff, back aching. The chair that had been my throne now felt like a trap. But clarity came with exhaustion, raw, sharp, unforgiving clarity. I actually stood, and walked. I began moving floor to floor through sealed internal paths, checking people myself. They looked at me differently now. Not as the lazy guy behind the messages, but as something else. A constant. A player who hadn't logged out. I noticed something critical. Apartments that were full of people, furniture, noise were targeted more aggressively. Empty ones were ignored. The snow didn't like absence. It filled voids, claimed silence. I gathered everyone on the central floors and issued the hardest rule yet. No one is alone, ever. Some protested. Then the vents answered with that distorted hum again, and the protests stopped. Not everyone wanted to survive together. A man from floor 31, former building manager, thought he could negotiate. He believed this was some classified military experiment, some atmospheric anomaly that could be reasoned with. He opened a maintenance hatch, just a crack. The snow didn't rush in. It waited. Then it flowed around him, sealing exits, isolating entire sections of the building. We lost 3 floors before we could seal it off again. Dozens of people, gone. The chat exploded in rage. Someone called him a murderer. Someone else called me a dictator. I let them. Leadership in collapse isn't about being liked. It's about being right often enough. The answer came from a dead signal. A woman on floor 40, astronomer, had been recording sky data automatically before the storm. Her equipment survived long enough to transmit one final packet. The snow hadn't started here. It had descended, from orbit, not as ice, as particulate matter, self-replicating crystalline structures, adaptive, reactive, designed or evolved to seek equilibrium by eliminating open systems. Cities were perfect targets, full of gaps, noise, heat, motion. We weren't buried, we were being contained. Movement attracts it, sound excites it, heat angers it, but patterns confuse it. I reorganized us one last time. Scheduled movement windows, synchronized breathing, shared silence. We lived like monks inside a machine that wanted us gone. And it worked. The snow slowed, the pressure eased. Days passed, weeks. Outside, the world was gone. No signals, no planes, no satellites, just white. Inside the building, life continued, quiet, fragile, stubborn. I stopped playing games. Didn't need them anymore. Reality had become the hardest one I'd ever played. I don't know if we won. I know we didn't lose. The snow still presses against the walls, listening, waiting for a mistake. Maybe it always will, but we adapted, and maybe that was the point. If anyone ever finds this record, if the white ever recedes, know this: the lazy man didn't save us because he was strong. He saved us because he understood systems. And the world? The world was just another broken one, waiting to be beaten. Stability is dangerous. In games, once players feel safe, they optimize, they push limits, they test boundaries, they get curious. We did too. After 3 weeks of silence, the snow's pressure dropped to almost nothing. The white noise faded. People started whispering again, laughing even. Someone cooked real food instead of ration paste, and the smell drifted through the halls. That was the first warning. The snow reacted to smell faster than it ever had to sound. It pulsed. The walls shuddered like a living thing exhaling. I ordered containment protocols back in place, but it was too late. People had tasted normalcy again, and normalcy is addictive. That night, a child asked a question in the group chat. Is the snow asleep? No one answered, but something did. I started dreaming of white corridors, not snowstorms, not cold, endless clean hallways with no doors, no corners, no shadows. Every step echoed too perfectly. Every breath sounded pre-recorded. I wasn't the only one. By day 26, dozens reported the same dream. Identical, same pacing, same silence, same feeling of being observed from everywhere at once. That's when I realized the snow wasn't just reacting anymore. It was modeling us, learning how we think, how we rest, how we break. She vanished without noise. Floor 18, shared room, 4 people present. 1 second she was there. The next, nothing. No snow surge, no pressure spike, no alarms, just absence. Her outline remained in the frost that coated the wall behind her, like negative space burned into memory. The snow had learned a new trick: selective removal. People stopped sleeping alone after that. Then they stopped sleeping at all. On day 31, the white moved away from one window. Just one. A perfect rectangle of darkness appeared, framed like a doorway into the night. Stars were visible, real ones. The snow pulled back neatly, politely, like it was offering us a gift. Half the building wanted to go. I said no, too clean, too precise, too intentional. They called me paranoid, so they tested it with a drone. The drone crossed the threshold and froze midair. Not iced, paused. Then it unfolded. Piece by piece, every component separated and drifted outward, reorganized into crystalline lattice that snapped back into the snow. The window closed. The stars vanished. We lost floor 33 overnight. No surge, no warning, just temperature drop. The snow had figured out our biggest weakness. Heat wasn't protection, it was bait. Warmth created gradients. Gradients created flow. Flow created opportunity. We shut everything down. No heaters, no cooking, no comfort. People huddled together, teeth chattering, trading warmth like contraband. That's when the deaths started accelerating. Not dramatic ones, quiet ones. Sleep became permanent. At 3:03 a.m., my screen lit up. No network, no power spike. Yet there it was, a single line of text rendered perfectly. Stability achieved, optimization in progress. I didn't tell anyone. I knew better than to spread endgame messages. In every simulation I'd ever played, that line meant one thing. The system was done reacting. Now it would refine. Months passed, or maybe years. Time lost meaning without sunrise or sunset. We measured days by sleep cycles, weeks by deaths. Births happened too. Quiet ones. Children born into white silence, never knowing sky, never knowing wind. The snow ignored them completely. That terrified me more than anything else. It didn't need to optimize what it had already claimed. I finally understood. The snow wasn't exterminating humanity, it was archiving it. Cities weren't being destroyed, they were being compressed, sealed, stabilized, preserved. We weren't survivors, we were samples, and somewhere far beyond the white, something was collecting us. I broke the final rule. I moved alone. I walked to the window, pressed my hand against the glass. The snow responded instantly, not violently, but curiously. It pressed back, mirroring my shape perfectly. For the first time, I felt something from it. Not hunger, not malice. Expectation. I spoke aloud, knowing sound attracted it. You learned from us, I said, but you learned wrong. The snow paused. I smiled, and did the one thing no system can predict. Nothing. No movement, no sound, no heat, just presence. The snow hesitated. For the first time since it fell, it didn't know what to do. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually, the pressure eased. Microscopically, a fraction, enough to matter. If anyone ever reads this, understand, we didn't defeat the snow, we confused it long enough, and sometimes that's the only win condition left. I was wrong about one thing. The snow wasn't confused forever. It was deciding. For a long time, longer than my legs could support, longer than my thoughts stayed sharp, I stood at the window without moving. Just existence. The snow mirrored me perfectly, a pale silhouette pressed against the glass like a negative photograph. Then it pulled back. Not violently, not suddenly. It withdrew, the way a tide obeys gravity it doesn't understand. The pressure vanished first, then the hiss, then the weight. Light returned, real light, broken, weak, but unmistakably real. Someone screamed down the hall. Another laughed. A child cried for the first time since being born. I collapsed. The city wasn't gone. It was smaller. Skyscrapers stood half-buried, their upper floors exposed like bones through skin. Streets were canyons of compacted white crystal, harder than ice, resistant to heat, impossible to melt. No bodies outside, none. Whatever the snow had taken, it hadn't discarded. We emerged slowly, carefully, like prey after a forest fire. No planes overhead, no satellites blinking, no distant cities answering. Just us, one building, one preserved pocket of humanity. Weeks later, when power returned in fragments and ancient emergency networks flickered back to life, we learned the scale. Other cities had vanished entirely. Some never saw snow at all. Some saw it fall, then never stop. Our building wasn't special because of me. It was special because we were dense, coordinated, and predictable. The snow had finished collecting everywhere else. We were the last unresolved variable. It didn't retreat because we won. It retreated because we were no longer useful. I don't play games anymore. I don't need simulations of survival. I don't need achievements. I sit by the window most days and watch the white plateau where the city used to stretch endlessly. Sometimes, far out there, the surface ripples just slightly, as if something beneath it shifts position. Waiting, learning again. And when people ask how we survived, they expect some heroic answer. Something brave, something strong. I tell them the truth. I stayed still long enough for the system to lose interest. They usually laugh. They shouldn't. Because whatever took our world, it didn't leave. It just finished its turn. And one day, it will start the next.